And for those of you in the room, thanks for your patience. We wait for that cue to begin the meeting. Now, some of us have some different clocks. Well, welcome to July. Welcome to our July 2nd, 2025 Board of Douglas County Commissioners 5:30 business meeting. Paper copies of the agenda are available for those who are here in person. Full packet is available online on our website with all materials. Reviewing our full agenda, first we will consider our consent agenda. There are just 2 items there this evening. After that, we will have general public comment. We welcome general public comment for addressing issues that are not on today's agenda, but otherwise related to county business. Given our limited time, and the need to have an orderly and efficient meeting, we do apply certain rules regarding public comments. We will do our best to enforce these rules consistently and without regard to the point of view expressed by the speaker. Each speaker will be limited to a total of 3 minutes of speaking time. However, we will accept public comment of any length in writing. Individual speakers may not donate unused time to the other speakers. All comments must address topics within the jurisdiction of the County Commission, and we reserve the right to mute and remove any speaker whose comments are threatening, aggressively hostile, or belligerent. Campaigning for public office during the public comment period is not allowed. Please give your full name and residence for the meeting minutes, and please address your comments directly to the commission. We will hear from people who are here in person first, and then we'll look to our Zoom meeting attendees. If you are online, please use the raise your hand function if you wish to provide your public comment virtually. Please also know that any public comments received by the commission during our meetings do not necessarily represent the views of Douglas County government, but we do value the input. We don't usually respond to general public comment on the spot, but if you leave your contact information with county staff, we will try to get specific questions answered later. After our general public comment concludes, then we move on to our regular business agenda tonight, where we just have 1 item this evening for discussion. And for each action item, we will hear from staff first, or an applicant or other community partners who may be presenting, followed by questions from the commission directly. Then we will open the floor for public comment that is relevant to that item. And once public comment is concluded, we'll bring the item back to the commission for further discussion and a vote if it's an action item. Lastly, a recording of this meeting will be available on the county's YouTube page and website. And for those of you who are here in person, Robin made a pot of coffee in case you need a cup back there. And with that, we will jump right into our consent agenda. Commissioners, anybody wish to pull anything for further discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, is there anybody in the public who wishes to pull anything from our consent agenda for further questions? No hands online, Sarah?
No hands online.
Okay, thank you for verifying. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public comment period for that, and I'm open for a motion.
I move to approve consent agenda items 1.1 and 1.2.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you, commissioners. All right, we will open up the general public comment period. Is there anybody in person? Come on up, John. And anybody else is welcome to follow after he's finished.
John Ems, Lawrence, 66049. You saw it coming. First, the Burt Nash Senior Director of Finance and Administration, the person responsible for implementing fiscal policies and operations, resigns. Then the Chief Financial Officer resigns. And the CEO comes to a commission meeting asking for more operating funds. And it was reported there's only enough cash on hand to cover 2.5 days worth of operating expenses. That's an annual loss of $2.1 million. Then the CEO resigns and the board states there's been a lack of financial transparency. In the for-profit world, you would not invest in a company with this kind of financial catastrophe. This is a damning reflection of systematic failures in internal controls, oversight, and accountability, all at the expense of taxpayers. These failures demand immediate correction, and I understand Burt Nash hopes SSC advisors will help stabilize the organization's finances. The board is looking to ensure that core financial tracking functions operate effectively and produce necessary deliverables for budgeting, audit prep, and financial statement reporting. However, given the seriousness of the financial management failures, Burt Nash should not be the contracting agent for SS&C. Douglas County should be the responsible agency. If Douglas County is going to pay for the contract, then Douglas County ought to ensure that SSC Advisors delivers a thorough set of actionable recommendations that correct Burton Nash financial failures with a process that is transparent, built on merit, and with accountable service delivery metrics. Burton Nash Board said, and I quote, "I think that we need to look at a much more outside perspective than in-house. We've identified that there are some problems, and I think oftentimes the best way to solve problems is not to ask the people involved in the problems to solve the problems." Finish the quote. That is a true and accurate observation. The board was involved in the problems and should not be in charge of the firm contracted to solve the problems. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, John. Anybody else in person wish to provide general public comment? Okay, seeing no takers. Any raised hands, Sarah?
Yes, Ellen Johnson. Ellen, you're in the panel and you can provide public comment.
Okay, hi. I haven't heard back I know of. I haven't checked my email recently from any commissioners about my suggestion last week that you seek or create some form of outside oversight for healthcare in the jail. But I did want to tell you a little bit about my concerns about why this is necessary. The first of these being liability. We have one documented instance of something akin to medical neglect and starvation. So I've actually looked at court cases online. Mostly, I'm not an attorney, so it's news stories online. And what it looks like happens is if a contractor makes this mistake multiple times, then a county or a sheriff or a government becomes liable for a violation of constitutional rights because it's a pattern. Then it becomes not a mistake the contractor made. It becomes an issue of policy. I'd also like to bring up, I don't know how familiar you are with this phenomenon, but the institutionalization of corrections workers. I want to come out and say it. It appeared to me as an outsider that corrections workers were actually subverting the attempts. Well, they were subverting the healthcare contractor. This young man was seen in medical several times, and I said, geez, they're weighing you that much. He was not allowed to make medical requests for himself. It had to be guards, and they were getting him in. But you just couldn't do anything about what the contractor says. And I want to say that that's to me laudable. That's admirable. But corrections workers have to follow protocols. There's a chain of command, and they also get used to seeing people come in really bad shape. So while they might be concerned, alarm bells might not go off at the right time for them because they have people coming in all the time who are in, decrepit states of deteriorating health, and they leave in decrepit health, but they've improved somewhat. So they aren't necessarily always able to gauge the health of an inmate. They're not healthcare professionals. I think for now, that's all I really had to share with you this week. I know that I was excited because I started reading bios and I see that Erica Anderson has an extensive healthcare background. And I really hope that with her expertise, you guys can take a closer look at this and consider outside oversight. I guess I also wanted to say that I did call the governor's office and suggest outside oversight because there is a crisis in KDOC. I've called senators as well, and you know what? I get different reactions. The governor's office really seemed interested. They said, we appreciate your solutions thinking, your solutions-based thinking. We appreciate your solutions. They were careful to make sure they understood everything I said, and they said they would forward it along, and they appreciated it. And if we have
Thank you,
them in
Ellen.
there,
Ellen,
have I
that's your
done?
time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night. Anybody else with their hand raised online?
Yes,
Okay.
Adriana Williams. Adriana, you're in the panel and you can provide your public comment.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your time. There's a quote from the King James Bible in James chapter 4, verse 17 that states, "Therefore to him that knoweth to do good and doeth it not, to him it is sin." And that is why I'm here today, to do the good that I know I should do. I am here on behalf of a people seldom talked about enough, and that is the vaccine injured, and to help prohibit future vaccine injuries. There are those that don't even know that they themselves or people they know are COVID-19 vaccine injured, and instead they think that they have what some doctors call long COVID. These COVID-19 shots act as a bioweapon. The various conditions of people who have taken the COVID vaccine bioweapon are included but not limited to the following: inflammation of the heart, otherwise known as myocarditis, fibrous blood clots, chronic fatigue, brain fog, paralysis,
Adriana,
autoimmune diseases, and even
Adriana,
hello.
I apologize for interrupting you, but do you have comments specific to the jurisdiction of the county commission to make this evening?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please make comments
is
that are
to the health
specific to
of-
the jurisdiction of the county commission, and please also state your name and residence for the meeting minutes. Thank
Adriana
you.
Williams, Lawrence 66049. May my time resume now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Autoimmune diseases, and even the horrid gamma irradiation and turbo cancers, and not to mention death. Much damage is obviously done by the mRNA COVID vaccine bioweapon, since once injected into you, lipid nanoparticles factory produce these spike proteins, of which rampantly attacks vital organs, causing damage to the body and even damage to people around the vaccinated through viral vaccine shedding. So solutions to all this can be more public service announcements to deter getting vaccinated, such as being honest and thorough about risks and dangers of taking vaccines and of the horrid ingredients involved in vaccines, and encouraging people to heal from damage done to them that can help. There is a test that can help people to get better treatments, which is the spike protein antigen test, which is available to us. However, to my knowledge, it is not FDA approved in America for human use. That fact may discourage doctors from recommending and using that test, even though it is actually what they can use to test and see which treatments and anti-inflammatory therapies are working or not in order to reduce the spike protein levels that are in the person's blood. So we need more access and promotion of this beneficial test. We also need more recommendations for treatments to spike protein infestation, such as antiparasitics and nutrition supplementation and oxidation treatments. But the main recommendation is to prohibit vaccination entirely. That will increase health as it has in the past. So thank you for your attention, and please help us to do this good thing of stopping the shots and
That's
helping our
time.
vaccine
Thank you,
injured.
Adriana. Thank you for your comment. Have a good night. Sarah, are there any other virtual hands this evening?
No.
Okay. All right, we will close the general public comment period and move on to our single agenda item for the evening. Sarah, will you be introducing this for us?
Actually, I think Jill's online
Oh,
and
thank you.
she's gonna kick this off. Jill?
Good evening, Commissioners. And I'm just going to drive the PowerPoint this evening. I'm going to ask Jonathan Smith to come up, and I will get the PowerPoint slide ready to go. And I think we have a great group of guests from our Anti-Poverty Community Health Plan and the Health Department tonight.
All right, Jill, let me know when we're ready to go. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me better now? There we go. All right. Am I able to control this from here? No, that's you, Jill. All right, Jill, I'll just tell you when to go to the next slide. Good evening, Commissioners. Good evening, everybody joining us tonight. My name is Jonathan Smith, Executive Director of Lawrence Douglas County Public Health, and I'm very excited for the opportunity to be here. I'm also really excited to be joined by some of our incredible community partners in the room, including the conveners of our anti-poverty focus area, as well as some of the people and the organizations that are leading this work every day. So we're here this evening to talk about how the Community Health Improvement Plan, what we also call the CHIP, which you can find at ldchealth.org/CHIP for all those who are watching, how it is helping us move the needle on health with a capital H, health with a capital H throughout Douglas County. Specifically tonight, we're going to be talking about the anti-poverty focus area. Just for some background information, the CHIP is our, that's good. Hold on, Jill. For some background information, the CHIP is our community's shared roadmap for creating conditions where everybody can thrive. And the disclaimer I give every time I talk about the CHIP, I think you've heard Bob say this too, is it's not the health department's plan, not the county's plan, not the city's plan. It's truly everybody's plan. And wanted to give that disclaimer. So truly, it's really a collective effort with many community partners and Douglas County residents working together to drive long-term sustainable change. So this slide you see is just more background information on how we got here. So back in 2023, we launched a countywide process to understand what's really driving health and also what's getting in the way of health in Douglas County. The process that we went under is called the Community Health Assessment. So you see that at the top there with the CHIP steering committee leading the community health assessment and still leading a lot of the CHIP development and the implementation of the CHIP. So throughout that assessment, did a lot of listening, analyzed a lot of data, and had a lot of different conversations with people who are experiencing some of these issues that we highlight in the Community Health Improvement Plan. And so Lawrence Douglas County Public Health, I mentioned it is not our plan, but we do provide backbone support for the implementation and the development of the Community Health Improvement Plan. So you'll see these icons here. We made those specifically so that you can remember what they are. So that first one to the left with LMH and Heartland leading it, it is access to care. So the conveners are listed underneath the icon. The next one is anti-poverty, which we're going to be talking about today, convened by Douglas County, United Way of Kaw Valley. Then we have behavioral health, convened by Douglas County and Lawrence Douglas County Public Health. Then we have birth outcomes, which is led by LMH Health. And then we have food security led by Live Well Douglas County and Just Food. And then lastly, A Place for Everyone housing plan, also known as Safe and Affordable Housing, led by the City of Lawrence, Douglas County, and the Lawrence Douglas County Housing Authority. So then if you want to go to the next slide, Jill. Here you'll see our unifying graphic. And ironically, we're here to talk about the anti-poverty focus area of the plan. And if you look at the unifying graphic, it's at the top of the graphic. One interpretation of that is that anti-poverty, by improving this focus area, it really has impacts on pretty much every aspect of the CHIP. There's some anti-poverty sprinkled throughout this. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I'll pass it on in a minute. You can keep it there, Jill, that's fine. So why anti-poverty? Wanted to talk a little bit about the why. Sarah Obermeyer from our community health team is going to talk a lot more about it. But in Douglas County, 64% of households who are single female-headed households live below the ALICE threshold. So ALICE, the definition, I've practiced this a lot of times, asset limited, income constrained, and employed. So what that means is they make more than the federal poverty level, but they still have to make really tough decisions when it comes to quality childcare, rent, food, and other things that help people thrive. So to talk a little bit more about this and to dive deeper into the data, I'm going to bring up Sarah Obermeyer from our community health team. She's going to really tell you a little bit more about why anti-poverty is such a huge focus area.
Thank you, Jonathan. Actually, Jill, would you move on to slide 12? I'm Sarah Obermeyer. I'm a research associate with KU Medical Center, and I'm working with the Lawrence Douglas County Public Health Department on their academic health department team. And I will present our data for the population of interest in the anti-poverty portion of the CHIP. The following slides are based on standalone posters, so they are packed with useful information, which you will find in your packet and on the agenda. But however, today I will be providing an overview of 5 key highlights from this slide. There is more information about poverty and housing in your packet, and I am happy to answer any questions at the end on the slides I present or the slides in the packet. If I can advance to slide 12, please, Jill.
Sarah, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Can you tell me which one it's titled? I'm sorry.
Oh gosh, it's the where we start with Alice. It has the survival budget.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Is this it?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, this is great. Thank you, Jill. As Jonathan mentioned, ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, and Employed. It can also be thought of as living paycheck to paycheck or one flat tire away from a crisis. The ALICE survival budget, as presented in the blue chart here, is based on a person's family size, the number of adult earners, and the ages of children who are in the family. This is a survival budget calculated based on a single adult with 2 children which is one preschooler and one infant. And their earnings would have to be $69,420 to meet the ALISH threshold for survival in Douglas County. This contrasts with the median income of single female head of households with children under 18, which is $45,425 per year. You can see what is included in the ALIS threshold. It is housing, childcare, food, transportation, healthcare, and technology with a small miscellaneous budget for everything else. As Jonathan mentioned, 64% of single female headed households in Douglas County live below the ALIS threshold, and this is individualized per person. So they're not all trying to meet this 69,000 example we have here. Next slide, please. Who is living below this ALIS threshold? Below ALIS also includes living below the poverty line. In the following graphs, the green is the percent above the ALIS threshold. The orange and blue combined together is
Sorry,
below
Sarah,
the ALIS threshold.
Do you mind slowing down a little? We'll be here as long as you'd like us to be.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
I was warned about time, so I'm like, let's go. The blue alone is below the federal poverty line. As you can see, children in Douglas County who are younger, so the infant and preschoolers in the top graph, are more likely to be under the ALIS threshold and also the poverty line than school-age children, which is the last column of the graph. There is some variation by city, and I'm going to give you the total percent of households beneath the ALIS threshold, so you don't have to do the math in your heads, adding the orange and the blue for the following graph that's by city. In Baldwin City, 30% are below the ALIS threshold, meaning that 30% are not making enough to survive in Baldwin City. For Eudora, that percentage is 24% under the ALIS threshold. For Lawrence, it is 42% of households under the ALIS threshold, and Lecompton has 38% living below the ALIS threshold. But there are only slight changes in the overall Douglas County percent in ALIS going back to 2018, so this doesn't change wildly per year. Next slide, please. There are several ways the anti-poverty chip intersects with the needs of single female headed households under the ALIS threshold. I'm going to present two of these challenges in Douglas County. We know, for example, the county needs more childcare spots to meet demand, and that spending on childcare is estimated to be about 8.8% of a family's income. As you can see, that is the second to last column on the blue table here. We hope that can be reduced to about 7% to amount to the last column on the chart. Childcare workers also make an annual median wage of about $26,000, and that would place them under the federal poverty line for a family of three. Next slide, please. Further, the plan includes pathways to employment for a living wage. So we listed the top 12 most popular industries for women of childbearing age, and that we were able to get information for 19 to 44, ages 19 to 44 in Douglas County. And we listed them here from most to least workers, and the average earnings for women in all of these industries fall short of the poverty level in the orange or fall short of the ALIS threshold, which is in the green. Not one of these most popular industries for women who work in Douglas County provides an income above the ALIS threshold for a family of three. This emphasizes the need for better paying job opportunities in Douglas County. And with that, I will conclude. Please feel free to browse your packet and I will answer any questions you have. Thank you for your time this evening, and I'll pass the podium back to Jonathan.
Thank you, Sarah. Hello again, commissioners. So here on this slide, you really see the heart and soul of who's doing the work to reach some of these goals that we're going to talk about. So I mentioned earlier the conveners, Douglas County, Jill, who is driving the PowerPoint, and then Kathy Smith from United Way of Cobb Valley. Those conveners, and really the conveners for every section of the CHIP, are the ones who are helping to make sure all this stuff happens. But they're not doing it by themselves. As you can see, countless number of member organizations that are contributing to this plan as well. Jill, you want to go to the next slide? So here, what you're going to see is how this group, all those people who you've seen on the last slide, have turned their vision of anti-poverty into an actual goal. Brings in some of the stuff that we talked about with Alice. But the goal is to improve the well-being of families in Douglas County by supporting both children and adults together. Then we're going to get pretty specific. The objective that you see is just one example of how we're really taking all this and putting it into measurable objectives. So as you can see, by 2029, the aim is to reduce the percentage of single female-headed households living below the ALIS threshold from 64% to 50%. And so that is one of the main goals of the anti-poverty focus group. So we talked about the goals. I think it's really important now to transition to how do we get here? So next we have some of our partners in this work. I'm going to introduce Caitlin Piney from the K-State Research and Extension Center. She's going to start the discussion on how we get there.
Okay, I know I have a little voice, so I'll talk into the mic. I'm Caitlin Piney, the Community Health and Wellness Agent for our team at K-State Research and Extension, Douglas County, and am a part of the anti-poverty group. Specifically, I'm here this evening to talk about our guaranteed income pilot strategy here that we're talking about. So by 2027, we're looking for our community to conduct a guaranteed income pilot program targeted to serve low-income women with children or expecting a child in Douglas County. So you likely, I know a couple of you participated in our guaranteed income data walks that we had this past winter to really introduce the concept of what guaranteed income is to our community members in Douglas County. A smaller group of us before those data walks actually participated in a guaranteed income program sprint to learn more about what guaranteed income looks like and what those success stories have been across the nation. We are by far one of the smaller communities that participated in that sprint and then later on received a $10,000 grant to help us host the data walks that you may have participated in the winter. So a data walk, we actually don't really walk anywhere. We essentially have data through our ALICE data telling the story of what poverty looks like in our community to increase awareness for folks participating in the discussion. In the data walks, we also showed a documentary screening called It's Basic, really sharing the story of what guaranteed income has looked like in the United States and what those success stories have been. In addition to that, we have community conversations that we hosted to really get community feedback and answer questions, address any concerns folks might have about guaranteed income. And throughout that process, we also are working on a focused population survey, sense making, and an action plan in partnership with the KU Center for Public Partnerships Economic Mobility Opportunity Grant. So I think next up, I'm going to turn it over to Brett Martin with United Way of Kaw Valley to talk about our community navigator work.
Thank you. I'm Brett Martin, Vice President of Community Impact with United Way of Kaw Valley. And as you can see, we're one of the co-conveners for the anti-poverty pillar of the CHIP. When we talk about our strategy in particular, we're talking about a countywide community navigator or community health worker program that increases the number of eligible low-income single female-headed households utilizing SNAP or WIC benefits in Douglas County from 10 to 50%. So when we talk about this particular population of focus, you'll recognize this single female-headed household as the same population that Sarah alluded to earlier when she talked about that ALICE population in particular, and then focused particularly upon this single female-headed household. I will note that this community navigation, this community resource navigation, community health worker strategy is an intersecting strategy within the CHIP. So what that means is that as the CHIP was being developed, it was recognized that this particular strategy would be needed not only in one area of the CHIP, but in multiple areas of the CHIP. So as you study the CHIP, you'll find this particular strategy emerge in housing, for example. You'll find it in birth outcomes. You'll find it in food security, and certainly you find it here in anti-poverty. So when we talk about the development of a community-wide community navigation program, we're talking about taking those particular systems that already exist in the community and bringing them together in an integrated and collaborative way to be able to bring human beings into spaces to be able to help those individuals who are our populations of focus to be able to access the services they need. If you know anything about human services and in particular about the services that they have to access, you'll know that they're incredibly siloed and that there are incredible barriers for our individuals who are living in poverty. And so sometimes they need someone to come alongside them. And so that's what those navigators and that's what those community health workers are doing. And so the hope is that we bring these systems together in a collaborative and integrative way by 2027 in order to ensure that these populations have access to these services, in particular SNAP and WIC, within the anti-poverty area of the CHIP in order to be able to increase their economic mobility. Thank you. I think at this time I turn it back over to Jonathan. Not to you.
Ready.
You ready?
Hi, I am Marie Taylor. I am the Executive Director of Positive Bright Start, which is an early childhood nonprofit here in Lawrence. So I'm here to talk about the strategy of having a community-wide childcare scholarship fund. I'd like to walk you through some numbers here just to see where we still are and what early education is costing our families. So when we think about the average 4-year-old's early education right now is costing about $825 a month. There's a few of us in town that are costing a little bit less than that, and there's a lot that are costing a lot more. As we go down to 3-year-olds, it's more about $900 per month. Toddlers get to be around $1,000. And if you can find infant care in our county or really anywhere in the country, it's looking a lot closer to $1,200 a month. It gets more expensive as you are younger because we have to have more adults because littles need a lot more help when they're a lot younger. Okay, Jill, next slide. So when I walk that through, as we've been talking about the single female household, head of household, I've walked it through with you for one single female and one child. If they are at the 100% federal poverty level, so making less than $21,000 per year, they're really spending almost half of their monthly budget is going towards early childcare, which is tricky to figure out. In lots of ways, it's cheaper just to stay home. So that really hurts our economy if we don't have people out working, but they also can't afford to have their children safe while they're working. Personally, at Positive Bright Start, and we have a scholarship program that we have had for 50 years. And we see a wait list of at least 30 families every year that are sitting on our wait list asking for scholarship to be able to help with childcare. I think it would be a lot more than that, but generally when people start calling and they know there's 30 people ahead of them, they don't ask to be on the wait list much longer. But the wait list we have is for families that are between that 100% and 200% of the federal poverty level. Next slide, Jill. So I would like to share with this strategy of us having a community-wide childcare scholarship fund. Positive Bright Start is extremely excited about that. We are trying to help in our small niche, but we would be very excited to be part of a bigger project that could absolutely be more helpful to a lot more families than we can serve every year. We have been doing this for 50 years, and we do have a scholarship administrator that has been with us for a number of years and has the systems in place, knows how to take care of families to help them walk through scholarships. I wanted to share that most of our funding comes from the Kansas Children's Cabinet Block Wet Block grant. So we already have the funding for our administrator, and we would be set and ready to go to help administer a larger community-wide fund without that costing the community anymore. So any funds that could come into that could directly go into the hands of families. That's all I have for you.
I'm Kevin Kelly with Peasley Tech. And I'm going to talk about a couple things related to the expansion of early childhood education. But first, the obvious, the number one predictor of health is nutrition. The number one prediction of the level of nutrition in a household is income. So we import thousands of people every day into Douglas County to work in good paying jobs, while we have a significant number of residents who are not prepared for to take those jobs. One of the things that has held us back for some time in participating in the early childhood field was that we only train for jobs that pay a livable wage. And up until the last couple of years, we really haven't had companies that were in a position to do that, childcare providers in a position to do that. We recently had a grant that helped us get a start with that. And I believe our first ones have been at the Ballard Center. There are maybe 3 apprentices in that program. But like all grants, that one ends, right? So what's next? And for us, our goal is to support a program we call the Peasley Promise, which is that anyone from a low-income household in Douglas County will not be turned away from Peasley Tech, as they have not been to date, and that in fact will not leave there with debt, which we've also ensured that no one does. So the early childhood, there's many ways to do these apprenticeships, and we were talking about wages, and whether or not a fund might be established for scholarships for families. It also may be another way to do this is to provide the providers who do pay a livable wage a gap of support. And for long term, I mean, we have to have people at $20+ an hour to get them out of poverty at a minimum. And so if you have, I know many of the childcare centers, and we have conversations with many of them, it's a struggle to get from that $16 or $17 an hour to 20 or 21 or 22. And I think that gap could have as big an effect on what happens in our community as far as the professionalization of early childhood and having it seen as a profession. So those are the steps that we're involved with. Our goal is to raise enough money so that no matter what grants come or go from the state or federal government, that we're able to support folks in Douglas County to get them into jobs and out of poverty. Thank you.
Jill, you want to advance the slides? I think we're wrapping up here. So in closing, it's not in our presentation, but one thing I was going to tell you all is that I can promise you that this isn't the last time that you're going to get an update about what's going on with the chip. One of the things that we're doing differently this time with this implementation of the chip is at the end of every year, we want to do a community update. And it'll be an event that we have where all the conveners come together, pretty like an open style to where you can ask, they'll show where we're at now, and that way it gives us the opportunity to get more feedback. If things change at the federal level or even at the local level, gives us the ability to shift. Maybe something's not working and we need to change it. So when we do those events, we'll definitely make sure that you're invited. So that was all that we had. I'm happy to stand and get questions from you all.
Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you to everybody else who co-presented. I appreciated that format and the display of what a collaborative process this has been and how many entities in our community it really does involve. So thank you for that. Commissioners, any questions top of mind? Anybody want to kick us off?
I have a question or two, I think for Sarah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kelly. Sorry, floor is yours.
Thanks. Thanks for your presentation, Sarah. I just have some really technical questions about the data, especially as related to the Alice income. It lists technology on there. Do you know what that covers?
But make sure to press the button, turn the mic back on.
Okay, there we go. That would be something like a smartphone plan.
Okay.
Sorry, Jill's finding it. There we go.
There we go. Okay. So that is you think it's a smartphone plan? Okay.
That and other things, like the actual purchase of a phone for each adult in the family.
Okay.
Yes. And for, yeah.
And then on the difference between 4-year-olds, I think it's on your next slide, actually, Jill. Yeah. So that all children versus infant and preschool, there's obviously a big drop between those two, between school-age children and infant and preschool. Is childcare really the thing that's making the biggest difference, or are there other expenses that we're thinking about?
I could only have conjecture toward that point, but it seems somewhat likely.
Okay. And then my last question, and thanks, these are all sort of just data curiosity questions, is on the labor data. You had the, keep going, Jill. There, yep, that one, thanks. Oh, you had it. That one. So the restaurant and eating places is extremely low, right? Same with drinking places. Does that include tip income or does that not include tip income?
I am not 100% sure how tips are included. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and what they have, I have.
Okay. That's the questions I had. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. And the citation is on the bottom of that slide if there is anything that is valuable to hunt down. And I can also assist you with that if you'd like to email me.
Okay, great. Thanks.
This is Commissioner Reed, and we breezed past a few slides that didn't get highlighted specific to sort of each municipality within Douglas County at a glance, and just a little bit more detail of those things, and which I found really helpful and useful, and appreciate the parsing that out. On each of those slides, it's highlighted that 52% of all Baldwin City renters are rent cost burdened, 44%, I think, in Eudora and Lecompton, and then also 52, I think, in Lawrence. And so that's not surprising to me. That's something we've talked about here at the commission. I've just been curious. I just wanted to draw back to that part of the presentation a little bit since we breezed past it and talk about any housing specific strategies beyond some of what you've talked about that you might want to highlight here for us today related to that.
Commissioner Reed, this is Jill, and what I would say is that this is one of those areas where we're using this data just as to illustrate what are some of the pressures on the households in the different parts of the county and what it looks like. I think if anything, this more points to the work of A Place for Everyone. And in that regard, I would say that, we have not had a chance to have a larger conversation about how to expand A Place for Everyone to partner with our cities outside of the city of Lawrence. So I think it's an opportunity as it relates to the larger household well-being and the work that we're doing in the anti-poverty work group. And it could be a future intersectional strategy with a place for everyone, maybe in its next iteration or its next 5-year iteration. I would just say that, for the city of Lawrence, obviously it is interconnected to a place for everyone, and the work and what we're seeing here as it relates to at least the female experience. We know from our work in developing a place for everyone that the impact of poverty and homelessness is disproportionately seen experienced by women in Douglas County, and we learned that in our work of A Place for Everyone. So I would just say that this work is consistent as much as possible with A Place for Everyone. But I also think when you look at birth outcomes, that's an opportunity for some cross-cutting strategies as well to support the larger household where females are leading.
Thanks, Jill. I appreciate it. Commissioners, any other questions for our staff or partners? Okay, seeing none, well, we really appreciate the overview and again, the collaborative approach. I love updates about the CHIP and have been excited to see how these conversations are progressing and hopeful about what opportunities and localized solutions are on the horizon for us, because so many people are putting their heads together and trying to gather data and information about strategies that might make a positive impact and show us some good results in a few years' time. Well, thank you all. This is for informational purposes only. And so it is a regular agenda item. So we'll open this up for public comment. Is there anybody in the room who wishes to provide public comment on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, most of you presented anyway. Anybody raise their hand online, Sarah?
Ellen, I'm going to move you into the panel and you can provide your public comment.
Hi. So this is slightly tangential to the subject at hand, but when you think about strengthening healthcare infrastructure, I don't think that this is something anybody should jump at. But I have been waiting to tell someone in public health that I believe people like myself might represent an untapped resource for like Heartland Community Health Center. So I do fall below the poverty level, but my circumstances are a little different. I have federal retirement employee insurance. I have the Cadillac of health insurance. I have no copays. So I personally, because I have such great health insurance and want to give back to the community, I'm not telling people to decline financial assistance, but I do because I don't have copays, because I know that helps fund Heartland. And I honestly, after I left Lawrence, I tried 2 other healthcare systems. I was very dissatisfied. I've come back to Heartland. I'm overjoyed that I did so. I'm thinking that people like me that have good health insurance and even people that are not poor might represent maybe an untapped resource, if they can help fund the community health center with insurance. And I don't know what to do with that, but it's a thought that's been on my mind for quite a while. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Any other online commenters, Sarah? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and close public comment on that item and bring it back to the commission. You've had another moment. Any closing thoughts before we move on? Okay. Seeing none, thank you all again for being here. We appreciate your work and we appreciate the presentation. That concludes our regular agenda. Next up are appointments, and I believe that we do have one appointment on deck that Commissioner Anderson has, so I'll turn it over to her first.
Okay. Thank you. Yes. So we have for Palmyra Fire Board, we do have an interested candidate. Her name is Edith Bond. This past week, she spent some time with our fire board current members, kind of getting to know the actual fire board, asking some questions, and she is still very interested in serving on the board. And so I'd like to move her forward as a candidate for the board. If the Board of County Commission is interested in approving her.
I'd say if you're ready to make a motion, I think you can move forward.
Yes, okay. So I'm ready to nominate Edith Bond to the Palmyra Fire Board to serve on the Palmyra Fire Board.
I'd second that. And also, I really appreciate the diligence it takes to find someone for that particular board. We've had some openings for a while, and I really appreciate the work. So I'm glad to have just second Edith for serving.
Great, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Commissioners, any other appointments that we need to discuss this evening, or Sarah, any that I'm forgetting about? Okay, I'm seeing some no head nods. So we'll move on to Commissioner and Administrator miscellaneous items and start with Sarah's memo.
Thanks, Commissioners. My memo's in the packet. Just want to update Commissioners that information related to our economic mobility opportunity cohort that we talked about a while back is the updated work plan is in your packet. So if you want to take a deeper dive into that, it is there. And we are meeting next week, but we do not have a 4:00 work session. We start our budget hearings on Monday morning for the 2026 proposed budget. So we'll be starting those meetings at 9 a.m. on Monday morning in this room. And then we will go till noon each of those days. And then on Wednesday, you'll come back here at 5:30 for our business session. And that's all I have, Commissioners.
Thank you, Sarah. Commissioners, any miscellaneous items you want to update the body on? Okay, I'm seeing no head nods again. And so with that, we are adjourned and see you all Monday morning.